Hello, my friend. It's my joy to be able to come to you again today through this means to share with you some more truth from the Word of the eternal God. We've previously seen how that the impossible is possible regarding Elijah and God working through Elijah, telling King Ahab that it would not rain for 3.5 years. And then God sent Elijah to a private place by a brook of water and told him to stay there. And then God commanded the ravens to do something that's not normal for ravens. They brought meat in the morning and in the evening for him, meat and bread. Normally ravens would have eaten it, but they did that until the brook dried. And then God sent him to Zarephath. And there he said, I have someone that's going to feed you. And he went to the entrance of Zarephath. There was a widow woman there. And this widow woman was gathering a couple of sticks to build a little fire, to prepare a little handful of meal and a little oil and make a little cake for she and her son. And she told Elijah they were going to eat it and die. And Elijah said, well, you fix one for me first, because I represent the Lord God. And when you put God first, he can do what seems impossible. And so she made one for him, and then there was still a handful of meal and oil left, and she made one for she and her son. And for the next many days, they ate out of that same supply. There wasn't more, it was just what was needed for each meal, and God provided it. And then again, we've read about and considered Hannah, a barren woman who was married to Elkanah, a man that had two wives, Peninnah and Hannah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah didn't have any children. And Hannah longed to have a child. And you recall they had gone to the tabernacle, and there Hannah had gone and made a vow to the Lord. She said, Lord, if you will give me a son, I will give him back to you all the days of his life. She made a faith promise to God, because that's what faith promise is. It's promising to give God what you do not have, if he will first give it to you. He's the one that it has to come from in some unexpected way. And so a person promises a certain amount to the Lord and looks to the Lord to provide it. That's what a faith promise is. Now, we can give our tithe to the Lord, but that's God's money. We haven't given anything when we paid our tithe. That's God's money, whether we give it to him or not. And then giving begins above the tithe. That's where giving starts, out of our limited income. But faith promise giving is a different way of giving to God that which you do not have, trusting God to provide it, and then you will give it to him. And so Hannah promised God that she would give him a son if God would give her a son. And God did exactly that. And Hannah took her son to the tabernacle and left him there. And he became a great prophet of God for the nation of Israel. And then God blessed Hannah with more children. And God does exceeding abundantly above all that we even ask or think. Oh, beloved, how great and wonderful is our God. Years ago, when we had to move from the field of Hawaii because of my wife's health, we went to work with the Native Americans in New Mexico. And there at Nuuciu Bible Baptist Church, we had been invited to go and work with that mission because the previous missionary had to leave because of what had occurred with his daughter and the problems that the tribe was trying to get a baby that had been born by her going through a difficult experience and having given birth to a child. And thus he had to leave. And because the tribe kept wanting to get the child, it was a princess. And so we moved in to take over this ministry, and the mission owed $30,000 on the property. That first Sunday when we came there was only 2 people that showed up that were a part of the mission. And then I had that responsibility when we had changed fields to come and work there. We had lost support, so I didn't have any money to put into it. So how are we going to meet those payments on that $30,000 loan? Well, the Lord burdened my heart to begin to teach the people about the tithe, giving above the tithe, and faith promise giving. And God keeps his word as we walk in obedience to it. And so in 6 years, the mission had paid off. The people themselves had paid off the $30,000 loan and were supporting 14 missionaries, $13 a month, because of their learning to give God's way. Now, where did the money come from? Well, I've experienced it in my own life. I received a birthday gift in October of '96 that became part of the funds that I had promised to give to the Lord. Also, there was a check received in 1996 from some people in Wyoming I'd never heard from, and it covered a part of my faith promise also. In other words, God sent it in from an unexpected source. I remember going to Nederland, Texas, from Colorado to speak in a conference there. And I only had my expenses paid for. But there was a man that gave me $20 to use wherever it was needed. And I was wondering, how am I going to see my faith promise met? Well, when we got home, there was a check from some people that I didn't even know for $250. And so it met my faith promise plus some funds to pay bills with. You see, it's an exciting way to be involved in faith promise giving. Now, I had to talk to the Lord about it frequently, every day. I'd remind him about my faith promise and ask him to provide it. And God always did. One time, part of my faith promise came from a rebate from the electric company. And in March of '97, I had less than a fourth of my faith promise to come in. And I kept praying. Then April arrived, and it was on the 2nd of April, after my prayer time, I went to the post office and again brought home the mail, and there was a letter from a lawyer friend in Indiana informing me that he had sent a check which was $10 over half of the amount of what I had needed for my faith promise for March and April. And so, again, the Lord provided and supplied it. Now, I want to share with you a testimony of Oswald J. Smith. Years ago, when we had graduated from Bible college, went to work in Electra, Texas, in a church there as youth director and song leader. Why, I was taking my young people and having them distribute, pass out tracts. And one of the tracts that I had received was a tract on how God taught me to give. And so I want to share with you this lesson on how God taught me to give by Oswald J. Smith. But before I share it, let me just mention to you an envelope that showed up in the offering in April 6, 1997 in Nuuciu Bible Baptist Church. And on this offering envelope, there was a note. Last month, you talked about faith promise giving. So I said before the 10th of the month, I promised to give between $50 to $100 as the Lord provides it. And the article stated, yesterday I opened a book and I found a check that covered my faith promise, and I was shocked how this fund was provided so unexpectedly, but it strengthened this individual's faith. Well, next time I'll share with you J. Oswald Smith's testimony about how God taught him to give. So in our next video, look forward to that, how God taught Oswald J. Smith to give and how he was a blessing and instrument in helping us to learn there in our faith promise giving. Until then, may the Lord richly bless you, my beloved. Goodbye.